On June 21st, men gathered at the Broken Arrow campus of Church on the Move to get coached up by former Tulsa University and current Owasso High School head coach Bill Blankenship. We hope you enjoy his message.
So anyway, I want to introduce our speaker this morning, Coach Bill Blankenship. Bill's been a fixture in this community for a long time. He coached high school ball at Union for years. He was the head coach at TU. He took a one-year stint over to Arkansas and won a state championship over there at Fayetteville, and then came back and won another one here at Owasso. So, but other than that, I'd tell you he's a really great man and has a great testimony and a very wise man. So we appreciate him coming this morning to share. So please welcome Bill.
Thank you, John. What a deal. If you ever have self-esteem problems, just start getting introduced. I mean, people don't say all the stuff that your wife tells you. She'll always remind me, you're not exactly like that, when they do the introductions. I'm very blessed to be with you. What a great time to get together with men. I hope you're encouraged by this. I hope you don't take it for granted. You have a great reputation. Dave Jewett and I are dear friends, and he's been bragging to me about the big breakfast over at the main campus, and I got to attend that. You'll be blessed with our speaker next month, I promise you with that. But wow, what a deal. And then John and I have been talking 2 or 3 months at least about this event, and to be able to get 100 men together on a Saturday morning with all the stuff that goes on, I hope that this will be something that you don't take for granted and that God will continue to use to grow you and encourage you and to bless you, because he is me. So thank you. You guys blessed me when I got here and you guys were in shorts and all that. I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm with my people, because I hadn't had long pants on in about 3 weeks. And I did this just trying to be a little bit professional, because getting up here in front of you, but it just doesn't feel right. So I'll tell you a little bit about being who I am. I've always been a stupid dad joke guy, but now with 13 grandkids, that's kind of who I've become even more. So I got a couple I'm going to deal with you. I want to show you one real quick. Here's a little slide, and I taught science for a bunch of years, and this is one of the things I want to make sure that you guys understand. We need to be serious at times, but you need to know the difference between an alligator and a crocodile. And like I tell my grandkids all the time, I'm sure some of you know that, but one you see later and one you'll see in a while. Okay, some of my people are here. I appreciate that. No, thank you. I didn't always look like this, okay? I used to be a young, cool guy. I've got a couple of young coaches that have worked on my staff. I've got Paul and Seth are back there, and they're young, buff guys like I used to be. This next one kind of shows my issue. One day you're young, and the next day you're sitting on the edge of the bed, and this is what it is. I mean, it just... And I'd like to laugh about that, but that's really true. I mean, like, it's just, my wife's like, you have no butt. I'm like Kermit the Frog. I mean, it just, I used to have one. It's not there anymore. Anyway, go from there. I like to use, I saw this one online. My stomach is flat. It's just the L is silent. I'm sure some of you guys can relate to that. So, hey, just know what to embrace, okay? Just who we are and what we're about and all that. I want to tell you a little bit about my story, and then all I want to do today is to coach you. That's what I've been doing for 41 years, and God has somehow blessed my ignorance into allowing me to continue in a platform as a coach, and so I just want to coach you a little bit. But I want to give you a little backstory. I grew up in Spiro, Oklahoma, down in a major metropolitan area down in southeastern Oklahoma. Spiro, there's a little slide here. Just look, that's Main Street, Spiro. Okay, it really is, and that's what it looks like. It used to be thriving a little more than it is today. But when I was born into a family, my dad was the coach in Spiro. Now, those of you, I know I'm old, and very few of you are my age or older, but there was a time where if you were the coach, you were the coach. And my dad was the coach. He was the head football coach. He was the boys basketball coach. He was the girls basketball coach. He was the track coach. And in the summer, he coached baseball for a lot of teams. And that's just the way we grew up. I was the middle son of 3 boys. I had an older brother and a younger brother. And if it could be shot, kicked, thrown, hit with a bat, that's just what we did. I didn't know for years what people really meant when they talked about the seasons of the year, because that meant to me football, basketball, baseball. You know, it wasn't, what else was there to know? My mom was a high school English teacher. Now, she had been a good athlete growing up, and so she felt the need to make sure we knew that. She'd put a hook shot on us in the driveway occasionally and make sure that, you know, we knew how to actually boot somebody out to get a rebound, because she could still do that. But she didn't want us to have this mindset that we were just jocks. And she wanted, as an English teacher, for us to have a little culture and a little sophistication and all that stuff. And so because of my mom, I took piano lessons for nearly 6 weeks, I think. And whether it was the teacher or me, I'm not sure what happened, but I wish I could have done those things. I didn't, but we did ball. And it was small town America. I'm going into my senior year in high school, and my dad, who was not coaching anymore, he had become the high school principal, which, let me just say at this point, you've never really lived until you had your mom in senior English, and she sends you to see your dad in the principal's office. Now, you talk about double jeopardy. Because it used to be, we had a rule all the time growing up that if you got in trouble, if you got swats at school, you're going to get swats when you get home. Okay, well, now I'm in trouble with my parents at school, and I got to go home to my parents. Not something I would advise, but anyway, I digress. So going into my senior year, my dad decided that the best thing he could do to make money was to try to get his son, me, fast enough, because apparently I was not very fast. I was the slowest, to quote my college quarterback or coach, the slowest quarterback in NCAA history, but I don't believe him for that, but that's what he told me. But my dad said, if I could just get you a little faster, you know, maybe you could get a scholarship. You're 6'3", you've got, you know, you do this and do that. And so we worked at it, and we worked hard. And I've never seen, my dad's a tough man, physically tough, wore a flat top his whole career of teaching and all that stuff. I don't know if any of y'all remember, man, flat tops and butch wax. You had to have that butch wax on to make it stand up. And so they started cutting our hair. Now, we didn't get flat tops, but we got a burr with a little bit of hair in front, just that they'd leave so it looked like to us kids that we had hair. But we didn't, but we get that butch wax and do something with it. Anyway, my dad's a tough guy. But I have seen the soft side in him. And one of them is that he worked so hard as an athlete. He'd been a good athlete. He was a coach. And his sons, just me particularly, took after, according to my dad, my mom's side of the family, who couldn't run. You follow what I'm saying? So there were a few fights in the family because my dad is blaming my mom for polluting the gene pool somehow to get to the fact that this may be not good. Well, the highway department came out. We lived on the highway there, right in the middle of town, and they put this sign up, and then my dad never recovered. Now, you guys think that this means something else, I'm sure, but apparently they do research for where the kids live, and they go put these signs out because my dad sent letters and letters and letters. They would never take the sign down. And it just embarrassed us for years and years and years. Okay. Somehow, some way, by the grace of God, and I don't mean that tongue-in-cheek, but by the grace of God, I was able to get a college scholarship to come to the University of Tulsa. And I actually played for some absolutely great coaches, guys that you may or may not have ever heard of. But my head coach was a guy named F.A. Dry, who I still think is one of the most underappreciated coaches to have been in the area. He had come from the NFL, and so we were throwing the football in the 70s when Wishbone was king. I was been a Wishbone quarterback in high school, came to the University of Tulsa and got to be part of an incredible run of teams. Anyway, I could brag about just what our teams did. That was just a cool time to be here. And I learned a lot of football because he was just a brilliant coach. My quarterback coach, my quarterback coach when I got recruited was a guy named Jerry Rome, who was also runner-up to the Heisman and had played in the NFL. And so I just feel like I had been around great coaches. When I came to Tulsa, my mom and dad had convinced me, don't go into education, don't be a teacher, don't be a coach, not because they didn't value it, but just because there was no money in it. I mean, there was no way to, I will just tell you, we were the rich kids in town at Spiro, and our folks were teachers. Now, you may not appreciate that, but that tells you a little bit about the economics down in that part of the state, but also, we didn't know any better. I just thought this was a good life. But mom and dad want us to be professional. Well, I had a great science teacher in high school, just passed away last week. Been very thankful for him. But because of him, I started out at the University of Tulsa in pre-med. And I loved the sciences, and I loved being a part of that. And then a semester in, we got our grade cards, and I decided I don't want to be a doctor. Appreciate some of you all following along and thinking that I had a choice in that. I did stay in biology and got a degree in environmental biology. Why am I telling you that? Because one of the key factors in biology that you would learn if you were into it is a concept called osmosis. And I can give you all the scientific pieces of it, but it's basically how stuff over here gets to stuff over here by going through a semi-permeable membrane and all that kind of stuff. Well, all I can tell you is I was around great coaches. And I was around great men. And I have learned to pray for my children and grandchildren to have people that intersect their life like the men that intersected and women that intersected my life. Because I believe in osmosis. I believe when you get next to people, good stuff can happen if they're good people and good men. And so I had both kinds, but I was around great coaches. I told you about my first quarterback coach. My last quarterback coach was a guy named Larry Coker. Larry Coker's an Oklahoma guy and got into college coaching. All he did is go win a state or national championship at the University of Miami. All these Hall of Fame guys. My coach that took over after F.A. left is John Cooper. Again, maybe not the most known person here, but Coach Cooper went on to finish his career at Ohio State and would probably still be coaching today if he could just have beaten Michigan a few times. But he's in the College Hall of Fame. All these Hall of Fame guys were the people that I grew up around, and yet I had no intention of coaching. Wasn't going to coach, had no intention of coaching. I'm going to get a job. I actually got an environmental biology degree. And in the 80s, the oil was booming and people were having to hire these EPA studies and scientists and people to go out in the field. You could wear shorts and go out and do your studies and do all this stuff. And that's what I was going to do. I was going to go work for an oil company. Right out of college, though, I went to work for FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, because it was just a natural thing. Those were people that had involved and affected my life. And so I went to work for FCA, and I did that for about 3 years. And while I'm working for them, I get a call from a guy that was a senior when I was about a sophomore at TU. And he was on a school board here in Tulsa, and he said, "Have you ever thought about coaching?" And I had to be honest with him. I absolutely wanted to coach. I absolutely love football. But the truth was, as a quarterback, And I don't know if y'all know very many quarterbacks, but we do not have self-esteem problems. Okay? Generally, if you're a successful quarterback, you don't have a lot of self-esteem issues. Okay? And my deal was, man, I knew football. I'd been around all these people. There is no way I'm going to go start a career as a 7th grade football coach. I'm way beyond that. I wouldn't say that out loud. I'm smart enough to not act that way. But that's exactly how I felt. I don't need to grow. I know football. Why wouldn't you want to hire me? And so I just assumed I would never coach. And Bob said to me, he said, man, have we got a deal for you? We've got an opportunity at a small Christian school here in town, and we need a head coach. Really? And we want you to be the head coach. And you can be the athletic director. And I'm like, really? Boy, you guys are, what I'm wanting to say is how smart they are. And I wound up accepting a job at Eastwood Christian School as the head football coach. Now, what either they didn't tell me or I didn't listen was they had just gone through, it was a pretty good-sized Christian school at the time, that had just gone through a split, and a group had gone over to begin what is now Metro Christian Academy. Okay? And the group that went to Metro also included the superintendent and the head football coach and every player that could play football went to Metro. And I got to be a coach. And I loved it. And here's what I would tell you. We were terrible. And I knew football, but I did not know how to coach. And I worked at it. You couldn't have convinced me, but I was absolutely sure I'm where God wants me to be. And somehow, by God's grace, we won 2 games. We were 2-8. And I am so determined that my life is going to change because I am going to get serious about this coaching deal, and this is what God's given me, and I'm going to change this program. And so I started studying and learning and figuring out how to coach better and do all those kind of things. And the next year, we are taking off. We go 3-7, if you count the forfeit. And I count the forfeit. On my resume today, it still says 3-7. And I don't care that it's a forfeit. They didn't obey the rules. Okay? 2-8, 3-7. I don't know if you've ever done anything that you're not very good at and become convinced that God has put you there for a reason. There's a theology in country music, that's tongue-in-cheek, please. Theology of country music that says, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. Okay? Well, I am a coach, and this is what I'm doing, and man, I am sold out on this is who I am and what I'm supposed to do. And the school closed down. Now figure, okay, have you ever been where you think you're in the middle of God's will, and all of a sudden stuff, I still think we were. It's just, we weren't in the middle of Bill's will. We were in the middle of what God had for me, but I had no idea. And this happens over and over, men. I'm just telling you, by the time you think you got it figured out, hang on. Okay? Hang on. I have to go find a job. Little by little, I wind up trying to find a job and get a job, and I can tell you that whole story, but I get a job at Sapulpa as an assistant coach to a brand new head coach, a guy named Steve Spavital. And only if you're in the high school coaching world or would you even know that name, but Spav had just gotten the job, and Spav's dad had been an NFL coach. Spav's dad had been a World Football League coach and general manager and all. Spav had gone to NFL camps and learned how to coach. And now I get to work with Spav, and I get to learn what coaching is about. And I was so blessed to have him as a friend for 20 years that we got to coach together. But he would just, why do you do it like that? Well, you know what my answer was? Well, that's the way we used to do it. That's the way. You mean there's more than one way to do things? And you would begin to evaluate and learn, and we would hash this out, and then he would give me the keys and say, go do it. And I'd grow and grow and grow and grow because I was put in a position to grow, but not where I wanted to be, but where God wanted me to be. I was there for a year, and the job in Spyro opened up. The coach resigned, retired, and I knew they had talent in Spyro. So I called the superintendent up, and I said, I think you should hire me. Young man, okay? Think about this. Had 2 years as head coach, won 2 games the first year, 3 games the second year if you count the forfeit. And I said, you need to hire me as head coach. And he said, we think you're going to be a really good coach, but we think you need a little more experience. I said, I understand that, but I'm telling you, I am the guy for the job now. And he said, Bill, I'm serious. We think you're going to be a great coach, but you need more seasoning. I said, Dad, I want the job. Now, that makes for a fun joke, but that is absolutely the truth. Absolute truth. I talked my dad, who is now the superintendent, into hiring me. And thankfully, we didn't have Twitter and Facebook and all the stuff back in those days. It was still being said. It was just being said at the coffee shop. Wasn't being said online for everybody to hear it. But thankfully, we won enough games that he was able to retire, and I didn't get him fired or me fired, and we actually went to a state championship game. We didn't win it, but we got our team to a state championship. I eventually get a job and moved to Edmond, get to come to Union, and some of you all know the rest of the story. But people will talk about me as a champion coach, and I want to go, you just didn't know the first 20 years. And that's the truth. If I said to you, how long did it take? I would tell you it was 20 years before we won a state championship. Most people quit before they ever find the success in life that God somehow has set you up for. And now I've been very fortunate. I do a talk, I'm not going to do it today with you, but I do a talk called Secrets of Success Based on 40 Years of Failure. You want to learn how to do something? Screw it up. And you want to be smart? Don't do what you did wrong. So I have a file called How to Lose Football Games. Guess what? You want to be a good coach? Don't do that stuff. Well, if you coach long enough and you quit doing the stuff that caused you to lose, you can learn how to become a little better at what you're doing. And so fortunately, I've been a part of some good stuff the last 20 years. And we've won a lot of games and championships and all that. And I don't know how it happened. But I know God's in the middle of it. And God has allowed me to learn how to coach. And so I want to coach you a little bit this morning. I'm not going to keep you long, I promise you. But I want to coach you up. So at Owasso, which is where I am now, what's the next slide? Let me see what's up next. Yeah, that's my dad. I want to just show you that was him. He was still coaching then. Go ahead. That man grew up like this guy. That's a whole nother story. Okay? He would not have made it today if there weren't for men like you. He didn't have a dad. His dad left his family, alcoholic, left him to grow up with all of his brothers. That's a whole nother story. I'd love the chance to share that with you sometime. But men like you became game changers for my dad. I told you I never felt like we were the poor kids in town. I didn't know any different because people like you made a difference in my dad. My dad became the coach, the head coach, go the next one, and now this is my family. Try not to get emotional. But because of men like you making a difference in a poor kid in town and his brothers who had no other way, him and his brothers all got their college degrees, all went back home, all became the pillars in their different communities, in their church, and they raised kids that didn't know any different. Generational change can happen when you impact others for the kingdom. I'm not sure the guy that gave my dad tennis shoes knew that he was making a difference in the kingdom of God. I'm not sure the guy that gave my dad a job or the guy that invested in him, or I don't know that any of them knew at the time they were changing generations of folks for the kingdom. My grandkids have no clue about the life and the struggles that my dad had. Anyway, that's another story. That's why I want to coach you up. I want you to be game changers. I want you to be difference makers. Go to the next one. So this is what I told you I would do. Go to the next one. Charles Swindoll says it this way: being a failure has almost nothing to do with how often you fail. It has everything to do with how you respond when you fail. We are going to fail. That doesn't make us failures. You're a failure when you quit. You're a failure when you don't get up. Every man that walked in here is a testimony of this, because I was just talking to Paul. He's got twins, and one of them, the second, just learned how to walk. Now, let me tell you, when you learn how to walk, what happens before you learn how to walk? You fall on your face, you fall on your butt, you get over and over and over again. And yet you learn to walk how? Getting up. Going again. So you're not a failure until you quit getting up. Let's go to the next one. I'm going to make some assumptions today. May not be fair, but I'm going to make some assumptions that you're on the team. Most of the men here, I believe, if you're involved in this church, if you're involved with people involved in this church, if you're here on a Saturday morning, you're probably on Team Jesus. Okay? I'm going to make that assumption. You're on the team. Let me tell you, at Owasso, we have about 100 kids on our high school team, 10 through 12. Might be 90, might be 110. I think it's interesting now at the college level, they're talking about the 105. That's kind of the number now. But there's about 100 on the team. Okay? And you know one of the things I sell all the time, and I think this is so theologically correct? We win championships, we're all going to get the ring, baby. We're all going to get the ring. And nowhere on the ring does it say scout team or third team or first team or all-star. We all get to celebrate the championship. Well, if we're on Team Jesus, we're all on the team. We're all there. We've got a destination beyond this place. But I want to tell you, this is one of the things I say to my team all the time. We'll take anybody, but it's not for everybody. We'll take anybody, but it ain't for everybody. Because we're going to have a standard, and we're going to do some things at Owasso a way that we think anybody can do, but not everybody will do. I don't know how that applies to you, but I'm just throwing this out at you. I want to talk about the team, because you can be on the team. Go to the next one, please. Are you varsity or are you JV? It ain't bad to be on the JV team, okay? But it's the facts. Some are on the varsity and some are on the JV. You're still on the team. You're still going to be part of everything. But it matters if you're varsity or JV. Who does it matter to? I don't know the theology of this, John. I don't know how and why some of us are going to get rewards in heaven. I don't get that. Because to me, if I get there, that's a reward. Okay, but somehow it matters what we do, varsity or JV. You might say, what did I say the next one was? Yeah, travel squad. I mean, you can be 105. You can be 105 at OU, but that don't mean you travel to the away games. That doesn't mean you're not important. We got to have you to practice and to get ready, and you have a role, but travel or home games, maybe that's the only time you get suit up. Okay, we also call them chicken fries or impact players. Now, my coaches back here know what I mean by chicken fry. I don't know if the rest of you do. There are some guys that get to ride the bus. They get to be on the team, And they're just there for when we eat afterwards. Okay, they're going to get their chicken fry, but they're not making a big difference in the game. You with me? Are they not important? No, they're important. But I also make out a bus list when we get ready to go to the game. And we usually take 3 buses to the game. And bus 1 are the guys I can't play without. Starters, impact players. Bus 2 are the guys that I really need them there, but they're not quite bus 1. And then we take bus 3 too. And we ask them wait a little bit to get dressed out. Stay out of the way. Because we're trying to help the guys that are making impact make impact. But there's bus 1, bus 2, bus 3. Which bus are you on? Which bus are you on? I'm going to give you about 5 minutes of coaching on what I would suggest is a way to get on bus 1. All right? Let me show you a couple of quotes. Nick Saban, who we can argue, I think he's one of the best coaches out there. The fact of the matter is, if you want to be good about anything, don't make this into football. Get this. If you want to be good about anything, you really don't have a lot of choices because the process is what it is and it takes what it takes. So if you say, I want to be good at, what I'm going to tell you is, well, you just eliminated a whole bunch of choices in your life. Because to be good at this requires you to do certain things. So if you want to be spiritually on bus 1, be an impact player for the kingdom, the process is what it is. It's not that you have to, but you have to be good. Go to the next one, please. Embrace the process. This is what I tell our kids all the time. Lots of people want to win. Not everybody wants to do what it takes to win. Keep going. Impact players embrace the process. Keep going. Process is a process, not a destination. You don't get there. When you wake up this morning, you're still in process. The day you don't wake up, you got there. Okay? But until then, we're in process. And the process for being more effective for the kingdom doesn't slow down. Keep going. One of the things we struggle with is we are check-the-box type people. I don't know if you are. I am. I'm the check-the-box kind of guy, and I want to say, yes, I haven't missed my Bible reading, and yes, I haven't done this, and yes, and I do this. And if you were to graph my life spiritually, hopefully it looks like this to you. But if you get up close, you're going to see lots of this. But hopefully I'm way higher here than I was 25, 30 years ago. But individually, day by day, there's a lot of that going on, like the stock market. It's not about perfection, but it is about direction. Here's some tips for how to keep things going in the right direction. Go next. Learn to go 1-0. It's what we tell our guys all the time. Find a way to win. You don't just wake up and win on Fridays or Saturdays. You need to learn to win on Monday. You learn on Monday, whatever it is, learn to do whatever it is. For me, it may be that I made my bed. I got to start with some basics. I got to get some wins. I got to get some habits developed. Learn to go 1-0. I tell our kids all the time, go 1-0 in English class. Then go 1-0 in math class. Then go 1-0 and 1-0 with your mom and 1-0 with your dad. Get a win. And you know what happens if you practice winning enough? Friday comes easy. All of a sudden, we're in the habit of doing things that help us. People say all the time, Coach, y'all build character. Nah, I don't know if we build character. We help them build character. How do you build your character? Because I never had any meeting with a parent. I've had lots of meetings with parents that come in, and I don't know if y'all can fill in the gaps. I know my coaches could. They will say to me, Coach, my kid's not a bad kid. He just made a bad decision, bad choice. And I'm like, yes, he did. How many bad choices do you have to make before you're a bad kid, though? I don't know. But I do know this. There's bad and there's good. And every decision I make moves me one way or the other. And if I'll keep making 1-0 decisions, if I'll keep getting small wins, doing the little things right, then I wind up closer to the man I want to be, that God wants me to be, than the man Satan wants me to be. Learn to win. Control the controllables. Next thing. There is scripture to all this. It is a working out your salvation. Go to the next one. Don't want to stay here too long. Control the controllables. There's some real simple controllables that we all have. Next one. Effort, attitude, alignment, assignment. This is the way I coach my players. Okay? You control your effort. Nobody else does. You control your attitude. Nobody else does. You control your alignment. You choose where to line up. I can coach you on how to get lined up, but you have to choose it. And then the assignment is last. But it's effort, attitude, alignment before. Next, please. Colossians, whatever you do, do it with all your heart. That's exactly what it says. It doesn't say only at church or only if it's a big thing or only if it's a... Let me tell you, I came on Saturday to visit with you. This is the best I got. I'm giving it to you, okay? If it ain't good enough, it's not because I am not giving you effort, because I'm bringing it today. Because Colossians says, whatever I do, do it with all of my heart. I'm going to bring effort today in whatever. I can hear my dad. If it's worth doing right, son. I hear it. And it's scriptural. Attitude. Go to the next one. Same verse. Whatever you do, do it with all your heart. As for the Lord, you want to change your mindset? I ain't doing this for you, Dave. I'm doing this for God. God's judging me. That's the one that I want to get to stand up at the 50-yard line and clap for my performance. If I have that attitude, it changes a whole lot of other negativity that I have, because I'm doing it for the Lord, not for men. Effort, attitude. Let's go to the next one, alignment. They asked Jesus what the most important, all the commands, what are the most important commands? He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart. And he said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. He said, of all the things that are most important, the most important is love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And love your neighbor as you love yourself. You know what's lost on that sometimes? Is it's okay to love yourself. You know, I used to fight our players all the time about quit being selfish, quit being selfish, quit being selfish. Heck no. You know what it is? We're all selfish. We are all selfish. Quit being controlled by selfishness. Quit only loving yourself. Love others like you love yourself. If I'll bring them up to that same standard, then all of a sudden I got a different alignment. I got to get lined up with the Lord, and I got to get lined up with my brothers. And if I get in the right alignment, guess what? I'm pretty dang good. I can play. You know what the problem most of us have? We are a lot more worried about our assignment than we are our alignment. I want to be the quarterback. I want to be the head coach. I don't know why they don't want to play me they don't want me to teach that class. I don't know why they don't want me to. We're a lot more worried about who we answer to or what the flow chart looks like than getting lined up right. You see, when Coach Burgess is back there and he's trying to teach a safety to get lined up to cover a guy, if I'm supposed to cover you man and I go line up over here, the odds of me being able to cover him, not very good. That's just the facts. But if I can get lined up right, I at least have a chance. And how do we get lined up right? Here and here. Let me tell you two quick stories out of Genesis. Adam and Eve screwed it up, right? Y'all know the story. I don't have to tell Church on the Move folks the story. They get screwed it up. they wind up going and hiding from God. Now, I'm not a big theology guy, but this always messed with me a little bit. God is walking through the garden, and he says, Adam, where are you? Now, wait a minute. The God, the creator, the God of the universe, he don't know where Adam is? I'm not sure that's what it means. He says, Adam, where are you? It's like me hollering out there at the defensive end as they're circling him to go around and score, and I'm like, say, Joey, where are you? Dude, you're not where you're supposed to be. Where was Adam supposed to be? Lined up with the Father. He screwed up. He wanted to escape, and he goes to hide. He's not in alignment. Later on in Genesis, the brothers get into a fight. Cain and Abel. Kills his brother. Right? All the evil stuff that goes on. Once again, God shows up and he says, what? Where is your brother? Again, God didn't know. I think he did. Why is your brother not by you? Why are you not with your brother? Why are you not where you're supposed to be? You want to be an impact player? Get lined up right. Bring effort. Have an attitude that it's for the Lord, not for men. And you'll be an impact player. Let's finish with this. If we have any time at all, which I think we do, I'm going to challenge you guys to do this. I want you to have a little short conversation. And you don't have to have that, if you don't want to be too transparent, that's fine. But I just wonder which bus you'd be on. If we were getting ready to go out and we posted the bus list and said, we're getting ready to go hit Broken Arrow right now. We're getting ready to go make a difference for the kingdom right now. Are you on the bus one? You on the impact list? You're on the team, guys. That ain't bad. I'm not trying to diminish what you've done. I just want you to be more. I'm trying to say to you what I feel God's saying to me. You got breath. Let's stay in the game and let's make a difference. Lord, thank you for these men. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to encourage them and to coach them. And I pray that somehow your word will touch their heart and that it will grow and be watered and fertilized and go into men wanting to make a difference and being empowered to make a difference for your kingdom in this community. In Jesus' name, amen.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you're in the Broken Arrow area and would like to join us some month for the Brotherhood Breakfast, tickets are available on Eventbrite or at cotm.info.